New Brunswick has gained over 2,600 residents just from Ontario. And so I would like to know going forward, if we could ever find out how many residents we now have over the last 3 years that have come to St. John and New Brunswick, because I think we've done an excellent job in selling ourselves, showing that we're, we have a very good place to live, work, and play, and we're a great place to be. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if people realize that, we've had that kind of increase in our population, and certainly not due to the pandemic, I'm sure, but, it's nice that we are growing. Thank you.
Thank you. Get the Councillor Norton, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. West Side item. Congratulations to the Dominion Park Community Association, who recently received approval from the government of New Brunswick for a community infrastructure fund application, and the approval will allow the association to recoup $12,900 of costs associated with the recent master plan development, as well as the installation of a portable washroom in Dominion Park. The association and the City of St. John, I know even currently they're continuing to work together to prioritize and work and resource the master plan. So hats off to that group over there that's certainly doing good work. And also should mention, I know it probably will be mentioned later on, but the city's pleased to report that there has been a strong uptake in the Heritage Grants program for 2020, and I know we've got some heritage lovers on council. I know Councillor Reardon and Councillor Hickey, who's in a project himself right now. As of January 2021, $80,000 that was budgeted for the program has been fully committed, and the trends this year saw several larger renovation projects within the city's heritage areas supported through the program. So I think that's great to continue to see our growth and prosperity through that fund, and it's a great catalyst for growth and to make sure that our built heritage continues on for many years. So thank you to city staff that are allowing these projects to get off the ground and allow community organizations and homeowners to continue the good work that they do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Reardon, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just follow up on Councillor Norton's comments with Heritage. Having sat on the Heritage Board, not this term, but the last term, but the calculation is that for every dollar the city invests in that, the homeowners invest about $4. So it's a great investment for the city. Quadruple your money, that's pretty good. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands, I don't believe, or, okay, thanks. Just a couple of comments, just building on perhaps whatever each and every one of you said. First of all, the resilience of the community, the kindness, the generosity, and I know there is a lot of COVID fatigue out there, so just let's continue to be kind and patient and generous with each other. I have seen a trend, in the last little bit, social media can be nasty and it can be wonderful, and I've seen a trend. I'm not sure if we can see this on my camera. No, we can't see it on my camera. If you need some resources around mental health, the Canadian Mental Health Association shared out yesterday, and I've shared on my social media channels, the types of self-care: physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal space, financial, work, a whole list of resources available. And I've seen some folks sharing in the last little bit. They start by saying something like, I normally don't share things like this, but just being kind and compassionate to each other. St. John is known for it. And to your point, Councillor McKenzie, I think in a post-COVID world, I think New Brunswick has not only put itself on the map, but I was on the weekend in a conversation with someone from California who wants to come to St. John, has a bit of a connection with the city, made some linkages for them with some local resources. So each and every one of us in this city and in this region can be ambassadors to see our population growth explode over the next decade, I believe. We know the work that we've been doing with our new economic development agency. We're going to have an update on that tomorrow in our growth committee on its progress. So I think the skies are blue and the sun is shining on us as we move forward. And let's just remember as we get through this period to be kind and celebrate the good news in our lives. So thank you very much. We have 14 minutes to go before our public hearing. So Common Clerk, I'm going to ask you to maybe pick a couple of areas where you think we can just pull up maybe the tens, perhaps.
Yes, Your Worship, that would be a good place to start. So 10.1, we do have a public presentation on the proposed municipal plan amendment for 2100 Sandy Point Road, and Commissioner Hamilton will be presenting this item.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hamilton.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. So tonight you have a public presentation for a proposed municipal plan amendment located at 2100 Sandy Point Road. So as required by the legislative process, the first step is for council to host a 30-day public review period during which members of the public can write in and submit written submissions on the proposal. Just as we're bringing the map on screen of the subject property, I'm just going to read into the record the public notice. So public notice is hereby given that the Common Council of the City of St. John intends to consider an amendment to the Municipal Development Plan, which would redesignate on Schedule A of the Municipal Development Plan land having an area of 8.57 hectares located at 2100 Sandy Point Road. Also identified as a portion of PID number 55233-233 and PID number 55233-977 from rural resource to stable area. And also to redesignate on Schedule B of the Municipal Development Plan lands having an area of 8.57 hectares located at 2100 Sandy Point Road, also identified as a portion of PID number 55233-233 and PID number 5523397 from rural resource and park and natural areas to major community facility and extend the boundary of the primary development area. The reason for this change is to permit development of a retirement community. Written objections to the proposed amendment may be made to Council by February 10th, 2021. Inquiries may be made to the Office of the Common Clerk or Growth and Community Services at City Hall during regular office hours. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Common Clerk, another 10.
That's correct. So 10.2 on the agenda is another public presentation, and it's for a proposed municipal plan amendment at 2400 Ocean Westway.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hamilton?
Yes, good evening, Your Worship, members of the council. So we have another public presentation this evening for a proposed municipal plan amendment at for lands adjacent to 2400 Ocean Westway. And as required by our legislative process, the first step is to commence a 30-day public review period during which members of the public can make written submissions on the amendment, the proposed amendment. And so as required, I will read the public notice into the record. Public notice is hereby given that the Common Council of the City of St. John intends to consider an amendment to the Municipal Development Plan, which would redesignate on Schedule A of the Municipal Development Plan land having an approximate area of 0.4 hectares located at 2400 Ocean Westway, also identified as a portion of PID number 55095-855 from park and natural area to rural resource area. And redesignate on Schedule B of the Municipal Development Plan land having an approximate area of 0.4 hectares located adjacent to 2400 Ocean Westway, also identified as a portion of PID number 55095-855 from park and natural area to rural resource area. The reason for the change is to construct a new access road for an existing quarry. Written objections to the proposed amendment may be made to council by February 10th, 2021, and inquiries may be made at the office of the Common Clerk or Growth and Community Services at City Hall during regular office hours. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hamilton, very much. Okay, Common Clerk, 9 minutes, perhaps some 15s.
Yes, Your Worship, we could also move to 14.1, which came off the consent agenda as item 5.2.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, thank you. We'll just ask Councillor Merrithew to turn your camera off, sir, and remain muted. That is
I apologize, Council. I've got to come straight with you here. It should have been 5.1. That's my fault. I apologize. It's 5.1.
Okay.
On the John, I'm not sure what that does to your evening, sir, but I couldn't let it go forward incorrectly. Okay. I apologize. I'll turn my mic and camera off.
No, well, I guess hold on. You don't need to if we've declared the wrong item.
Yeah,
and,
but
yeah.
Very good.
Your Worship, in order
to City Manager here, I would recommend that we re-vote the consent agenda item at this point with still the exclusion, but the correct exclusion, which is 5.1. And then after that, Councillor Merrithew could mute himself and we could vote with the standalone item of 5.1. But we do need to re-vote the consent agenda since the number was incorrect.
Thank you, City Manager. Again, I apologize, folks.
Okay. So let's go ahead.
I would just like to offer the appropriate motion to deal with this, and it's in line with what the City Manager suggested would be a reconsideration motion on the consent agenda. Okay. So if somebody moved and seconded that, that would allow us to then move through.
Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. First, for the reconsideration, I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. And then we'll go back then, Common Clerk, to the consent agenda.
That's correct, Your Worship. So back to the consent agenda, this time removing item 5.1. Is that correct, Councillor Merrithew?
Yes, it is this time, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The deputy.
So 5.1 was removed. Yep.
Okay, sorry, Deputy, you're muted just so we can capture you on the record.
I'll move 15.2 to 15.10.
5.2.
I'm sorry, 5.2 to 5.10.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sullivan again, thank you. And I'll call that consent agenda then. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. Councillor Merrithew, you did the right thing, sir. Thank you very much for correcting the record here for us. Okay, thank you. And 624, Common Clerk. So now we could deal with the item, and we'll ask Councillor Merrithew to sign just his camera off. Okay, thank you.
5.1.
Just 1 second, please, Deputy. Sorry, Common Clerk, you can call the item, please.
Okay, yeah. So, Your Worship, item 5.1 now becomes 14.1, and the title of that is Banking Resolutions.
Okay, thank you. Deputies move that item. Thank you. Councillor Sullivan seconded that item. Thank you. And on the question, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. That motion is carried. Thanks. Okay, thanks, somehow we're going to. Okay, perfect. Thank you. The councillor's back. It is 6:24. Perhaps a 15.1. Common Clerk?
Yes, Your Worship. 15.1, Fundy Regional Services Commission Plastic Checkout Bag Bylaw. There's a letter that has been written to Council, and the recommendation is to refer this to the City Manager.
Moved by the Deputy for the referral, Councillor Reardon. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, you're ready to vote, Councillor? Councillor Hickey, sorry, you're just getting ready to vote.
I just had a question, if I can, Your Worship.
Yeah, so it's a referral, so we're not going to debate it, but if you, I guess, what's your question? Sorry.
I just wonder if there's any update on that June 30th timeline that was outlined by the commission.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. The Deputy sits on the commission on our behalf now. Deputy?
Your Worship, we held the date June 30th for the ending of plastic bags. As we had before, the commission voted that plastic bags would be no longer allowed to be used after June 30th.
So there's been
And
no
all
change.
all the municipalities in the region agreed with that, and we're holding to that date.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is going to be referred to the city manager for action, okay? All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary minded? Thank you. The motion is carried. 6:26, let's keep going. 15:2. Sorry, I shouldn't be calling. Next item, Common Clerk.
That's okay, Your Worship. So 15.2, Province of New Brunswick AIM facility. It's a letter and recommendation is to receive for information.
Thank you. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Reardon. I would just say very quickly, folks, I've had ongoing sort of dialogue on this. We're working with the province. The deputy minister has called me a few different times and continue to point back to the letter that council sent and looking for balance. That's what this discussion really is about. So just to add those quick comments. Councillor Reardon, did you have a comment?
Just very quickly, I just want to say that the letter says that we're looking to reduce the frequency of explosions. We're looking to reduce them to 0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just echoing Councillor Reardon's point. I mean, it's frustrating. We've got another shutdown this week from an explosion that I'm sure we all read today. I mean, I'm not sure what needs to happen here. I don't know if Herb Black needs to come back to town and call us all idiots again or what, but something needs to happen more concretely, and it's disappointing that we're not seeing it, and I hope that we get to a resolution soon.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Oh, and anyone contrary minded? Okay, folks, just to receive and file on that letter. It's not a done deal by any means, but thank you. Okay, 6:27, Common Clerk, can we keep going through the 15s?
Yes, 15.3, Your Worship. It's a letter from the Province of New Brunswick with respect to the Safe Restart program, and the recommendation of staff is to receive this for information.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Reardon. Thank you. Seconded by the deputy. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary minded? Thank you. The motion's carried. Okay, let's keep going here, Common Clerk.
And 15.4, a letter from Andy Bezo with respect to Stu Hurley and Belia Arena. Recommendation from staff is to refer to city manager.
Okay, thank you. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. Okay, it's a referral again. So on the question, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, thank you. The motion's carried. Perfect, thank you. Mary Saunier, welcome. Taylor, welcome tonight. Can we just ask you to turn your camera off just for a couple of minutes until we call on you? That's all. Okay, thank you. Or you might be on prime time if you keep your camera on. So, okay, thank you. 6:29 by my clock, Common Clerk. So we'll just pause for a moment and.
We could do the 17.1, Your Worship, if we wanted, which is the recommendation from Committee of the Whole.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So Committee of the Whole has recommended the appointment of new members to the Transit and Parking Commission, and that would be to appoint Tina Collins, Nick Cameron, and Kirk Peacock for 3 years effective today's date, and to reappoint Kay Gillis for 3 years effective February the 26th.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Hickey. Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Norton. Sorry, Councillor, did I get Councillor Norton? Are you okay? Second. Okay, perfect. Thanks. And I don't see any hands, I don't believe, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, the motion is carried, and thank you to those who are volunteering to make our city a better place. Thanks. Tricia, can I just ask you, welcome, first of all, can I just ask you to turn your camera off for a few minutes until we call on you, if you don't mind? Thank you. Okay, Common Clerk, I see 6:30. So if we just call the item, and I've got a couple of comments in terms of housekeeping, but I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Yes, Your Worship. So it's 6:30 and we've advertised for a public hearing tonight. The first item on the agenda is 9.1, and this is for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. It does have a Planning Advisory Committee report recommending approval at 144 Lansdowne Avenue. And this would be for first and second reading. And Commissioner Hamilton is going to further introduce this one.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hamilton.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Before you this evening for your consideration at tonight's public hearing is a proposed rezoning at 144 Lansdowne Avenue. There is no staff presentation this evening, but I would like to take a few minutes and make a few introductory remarks on the application. The proposal is to rezone the subject property from a low-rise residential to local commercial and impose Section 59 conditions in order to permit the establishment of a medical clinic serving the North End community. The application is supported by reports from both staff and the Planning Advisory Committee recommending in favor of the proposal. The Planning Advisory Committee did also consider written submissions from the public with some concerns expressed regarding parking aspects of the proposal, which were subsequently addressed by both the applicant and staff. And I would note that if there are questions from council of a technical nature, Mr. Andrew Reid is available this evening to respond. And in closing, I would just note in terms of speakers for this evening's public hearing, my understanding is that only the applicant is registered to address council this evening. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So council, there'll be no presentations, as I understand it, on any of tonight's public hearing items. For that last piece, I'll pick up on it just for the public's awareness. Opportunities were provided for anyone wishing to speak and bring forward any objections to any of these projects, and also for those wishing to come and speak in support of those projects. So in that case, if we were normally in a council chamber, we'd call 3 times for anyone wishing to speak and bring forward any objections. We didn't have anyone who wished to do so on our first item, which is the bylaw amendment with Planning Advisory Committee report on 144 Lansdowne Avenue. But my understanding is, and I see him on the screen, we do have someone here wishing to speak in support. And so we'll turn it over to Dr. Tundi Apantaku. Did I Tundi? I always just say Tundi, so I'm not sure if I got your last name right or not.
Yes, you did get it very right, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. I must say thank you to everyone, particularly the city council members, and also to Mr. Andrew Reid, that has been working extensively with me on this project, to make sure that we are doing everything accordingly to the city requirements. It's a great pleasure for me to set up and operate this pediatric mental health clinic in the north end of St. John. I've been in practice since 2012 in the St. John area, and we are looking at expanding, the pediatric medical clinic to, provide a greater outreach, particularly to the greater St. John area population. The property on 144 Lansdowne Avenue provides us with an ideal location, particularly because majority of our clients in taking our own records are in the North End area, right? And 144 will provide us with a closer proximity, particularly to the regional hospital, the 2 pharmacies that are close by, and to the YMCA program. We've been, like I mentioned, we've been working with the city planners to ensure that we meet the planning code with respect to the building. Our goal is to maintain the residential fabric of the existing building. The layout of the building itself, the interior layout, is well suited, for our clinical practice, and we believe it's going to be ideal, particularly for families that will be coming in. Overall, we are hoping that we'll have a favorable news and on the approval of the rezoning requirement, which seems to be the only obstacle right now, or the only hurdle, right now for us to cross, in achieving a full operation of the clinic. So thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Tunde. We'll just see if there are any questions. Council, are there any questions? Councillor Reardon, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Dr. Apantaku, I'm curious, the only thing I've heard really from any of the residents around there would be an issue of parking. So I guess because that's on a small cul-de-sac, there's not a lot of room for snow in the wintertime there. So I was just wondering, with your practice, every physician's practice is different by virtue of how you would see patients. So would you see that your parking area, would you be full all the time? I can't. Yeah,
with the nature of our practice, we don't deal much with volume of patients. No. It's more of time. So, considering, with respect to, other medical practices where you have volumes of patients, right? We see more of one family in every hour, right? So where we are hoping to have no more than 2 families, at a time, human traffic, right, is reasonably manageable, right? In the event that we have an overflow, we hope not, but in the unlikely event, we are looking at collaborating with the church building nearby, right, which is just adjacent to the building, such that we can have people, park there on the occasion, that will have a family come with 2-3 cars, right? Because it's a blended family and everybody wants to be involved. That, occasionally does happen, and we are mindful of that. But outside of that exceptions, I would think our parking requirements or our parking need, will be sufficient.
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I'd just like to welcome you to the North End, Doctor. Certainly a service that we certainly require. Again, my only concern as Councillor Reardon is parking. But I will say, if you look at the bigger picture on Lansdowne Avenue, there's a lot of parking spots in Lansdowne Avenue area. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I would just encourage you to make sure that, in those times when there's going to be more cars than your parking lot can handle, that you make sure that the clients, other parking lots like you mentioned, obviously, church next door. But certainly welcome to the area, and I know you'll be very beneficial to the clients you serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKenzie. I didn't see any other hands. Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Okay, sorry, Deputy, you're muted there. So you're moving first reading, Councillor McKenzie. Yep, thank you. Deputy second. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Okay, not seeing any.
Your Worship, that's a law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, thank you. Moved to second reading. Thank you, Councillor, or Deputy Mayor, excuse me. And Councillor Reardon, thank you for that. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. Motion's carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Apantaku, for coming tonight. And thank you for your kind words. Our staff do work awfully hard, and thank you for taking time from your practice to figure out zoning bylaws and all of those things. And I'm sure we can figure out parking. I think the importance of increasing capacity and making it simple for folks. You're right on a bus route. Most of your patients, as you said, are going to come from all around you there. So congratulations and thank you for making this investment, in our community. We love having you here with us.
Thank you. I love St. John's.
Okay, perfect. Well, you're welcome to stay for everybody else's public hearing if you'd like, or you can sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. So am I
Yeah,
free to leave?
You are free to go, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good
Thank
day,
you.
everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, Common Clerk, next item.
Yes, Your Worship. So 9.2 on your agenda is another item for the public hearing, and it's a proposed zoning bylaw amendment with the PAC committee report recommending approval, and it's for 19 Paddock Street, and this would be for first and second reading, and Commissioner Hamilton will also introduce this item.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Before you this evening for your consideration at tonight's public hearing is a proposed rezoning at 19 Paddock Street. And while there's no staff presentation this evening, I would make a few introductory remarks on the application. The proposal involves a rezoning of the subject property from urban center residential to mixed commercial. And also imposing Section 59 conditions, as well as a text amendment to the bylaw, which are all intended to permit the establishment of a mixed-use development, which would include a business office and 2 residential units on the property. The application is supported by reports from both staff and the Planning Advisory Committee, which recommend in favor of the proposal. And Mr. Andrew Reid is available this evening if there are any questions of a technical nature from members of council. And in terms of speakers for this evening's hearing, it's my understanding that only the applicant has registered to address council tonight. Thank you, Your Worship.
Perfect. Thank you. It is my understanding as well that there's no one here to register any objections. We will give that opportunity to either Tricia or Allison to object if they'd like to their own project, but perhaps not. So we have both Allison Townsend here with us tonight and Tricia Perry. I believe you're here as well, Tricia, for the same project. So we'll turn the floor over to you both to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Hamilton, and all of the other councillors in attendance this evening. I also want to thank Andy Reid for shepherding us through this process and the PAC that supported our request for rezoning to mixed commercial. I want to introduce ourselves. My name is Allison Townsend, and my business partner is Tricia Perry. We own a company called Residence, which has been in business for 3 years. Between us, we have significant experience in employment law, governance, administrative law, and practical experience in running a business. We were housed at 50 Hazen Street in a rental space that we rented from the law firm Fawcett Cutler. We fell in love with this area, and we have been searching for a similar property to house our business ever since. Trish and I are lawyers, and we have a junior lawyer working with us as well as an admin person. We're not a traditional law firm. We don't do any litigation. We are focused on conflict resolution in the workplace. We're both trained mediators, and we do training for employers, employees, professional associations, and many other types of organizations. We provide governance training and advice. We do all kinds of conflict resolution, facilitated discussions, group mediations, and individual mediations in the workplace. We also do workplace investigations, including harassment or workplace complaints that may breach an employer's policies or legislation. In summary, we offer a very proactive approach in dealing with workplace issues. Because of our type of practice, we do not have a lot of foot traffic. Most of our business takes place at our clients' premises. In December, we purchased 19 Paddock Street. It has 4 apartments, and we occupy 1 and intend to occupy another next year. We pay for parking across the street, leaving 4 spaces beside the building as parking for the tenants. The area is already mixed use, with a laundry at the corner of Paddock and Waterloo and a gallery across the street from us. We don't intend to change the outside of the building as it's not needed. It's a beautiful old Victorian building, which we have nicknamed Patty. We are doing some updating inside to accommodate our office. It's a beautiful old building, and we think that we can make a positive contribution to Waterloo Village neighborhood. We intend to be excellent neighbors and to help our neighborhood be the best it can be. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Hickey.
No questions from me, Your Worship. Just I guess a thanks from the applicants. I live around the corner, or just purchased a building around the corner, the old bookstore. So I certainly look forward to seeing you both in the neighborhood. And you know, I'm convinced Waterloo Village is the next place to be, and it's going to be a pretty exciting neighborhood to live in as people continue to invest in it. And certainly talks of a couple even bigger projects down the road for the neighborhood. So very excited about it, and thank you both for investing in the community and doing your due diligence here and really caring about it too.
We do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Are we ready for first reading?
Not quite yet. I just, anyone else, and then we'll go there. I didn't see any other hands. Just a couple of comments. First of all, I really appreciated your introductory remarks, the work that you do, and you know, as council members, we see a lot of these files. You know, to facilitate a space for you, that investment, the building is stunning. You know, just absolutely. I love that Patty is a stunning building, and that you're going to be investing, you're going to be there, you're going to be caring for the building, working in the building. You know, not only are you doing important work, but you know, saving these architectural gems. You know, later on in the agenda tonight, we're going to deal with yet again 2 more dilapidated buildings, and it's heartbreaking, our city, and it speaks to the, you know, the types of policy change that we need from Fredericton. But that's for later. I'm really pleased with you know, with your investment. I think you know, as Councillor Hickey said, you know, we've got a very exciting project we hope we're successful with on Cliff Street, which would invest, you know, several $1 million there. And the more we keep bringing the density back, people living, working, playing, I'll end it there. We've got the fire alarm going off in our apartment. So, so you're moving first reading, Councillor Reardon? Question. Go ahead, Councillor Reardon.
I have a question for staff, if it's appropriate. Is it now the time for staff questions?
Yes. So if we're done with our presenters, we'll leave them in that portion of the hearing, and we'll move on to staff now. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Reardon. Go ahead.
I have a quick question for staff. I'm supportive of this, obviously, but I just have a quick question. When I read through this, Paddock Street is urban center residential, but when you read through the information, it's also identified as an arterial. And those two seem to me diametrically opposed, because an arterial, I would think, would be the last place you would want to, you know, have density with either children or older people or whatever on an arterial. So I'm just wondering, and then it's really got nothing to do with this project per se, but is that a best practice to have a urban center residential and on an arterial? Is that normal? I know that Garden Street is cut through that swath through there over time.
So I know Mr. Andy Reid has turned his camera on, but I'm not sure by the look on his face whether he wants Ms. Hamilton, our commissioner, to answer that, or if he's ready to answer it. So Mr. Reid, or you want to take a swipe at that?
Sure, to the councillor, through your worship. My hesitation is just I'm not a transportation planner or traffic engineer, so but I can take a stab at it from a planning point of view. When we say it's an arterial, it was identified in the municipal plan as an arterial street, and you're right to point out that that does present a bit of a mixture of transportation need, with traffic flowing onto Somerset Street through Garden Street, and having this, you know, residential neighborhood. I think Paddock Street has grappled with that, but what you're seeing is some of the natural evolution of that. And it is one of the reasons why we think this mixed commercial is supportable, just due to the nature of the street and how vehicles use it. But I'm not sure as for best practice if Mr. O'Reilly's here or not, but I'll leave it at that.
No, and I realize that historically it is a niche neighborhood, that whole area, and that it ended up as being an arterial. I was just surprised was that it wouldn't have already had that mixed commercial zoning applied to it where it is in Ontario. Anyways, I'm good with all that, but thank you very much, Andy, for taking a stab at that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm pleased to report that everything is fine downstairs. So, okay. Any other questions for, excuse me, for staff? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you, Deputy. We're ready if you want to move first reading.
First reading.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy, seconded by Councillor Reardon. Okay, thank you. And again, I can't see everyone and I can't hear anyone asking to speak, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, thank you. The motion is carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, thank you.
Move second reading.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor, excuse me. Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. Okay, and I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone. Thank you. The motion's carried. Common Clerk?
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Thank you. All right. So Tricia and Allison, thank you very much for working on this project. Thank you for investing, and we wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Next item, Common Clerk.
Yes, Your Worship, 9.3 on your agenda is another public hearing item, and it's a proposed Section 59 amendment at 154 Waterloo Street, and Commissioner Hamilton will introduce this item.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. Before you this evening for your consideration at tonight's last public hearing is a proposed Section 59 amendment at 154 Waterloo Street. And again, no staff presentation, but I would make a few introductory remarks. The proposal is to discharge the Section 59 conditions that apply to the site, and this is in order to permit the establishment of an emergency shelter by the Coverdale Centre for Women intended for overnight accommodation. The application is supported by reports from both staff and the Planning Advisory Committee recommending in favor of the application. And Mr. Andrew Reid is again available if there are questions of a technical nature. And I do know that the applicant, representatives from the applicant are available to address council as part of the public hearing this evening. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hamilton. And again, we had no one wishing to bring any objections tonight to this file, so we'll turn right to the other side, and we'll ask if Mary Saunier Taylor, and I see you have someone else with you there, Mary. We'll turn it over to you for a few comments. Good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Hi. Good evening. So I have Tamara Kelly, my chair of my board, with me tonight. So she's just here to ask any questions if they come up that I may not be able to answer. So thank you, everybody. And I also would like to thank Andy Reid for all his hard work and guiding me through this process. And of course, all the community support that we've had over the past few months in regards to our original shelter located at 10 Clogan Court being dislocated because when COVID hit. So basically, Coverdale Center has been around since 1976. We have 3 separate residents, and then we have our drop-in center here right next door to the property we're trying to acquire for our new shelter. So the shelter, as everybody knows, is the women's first step to attaining some stability in their lives in St. John. We've been operating the women's homeless shelter since 2007. We have been really challenged, I will say, as we ourselves found ourselves homeless twice when we were moved from Bayside and then now to our current location at Somerset Street. So the building next door is ideal, and it was really challenging finding a building that was affordable and that was large enough in order for us to have all the COVID policies and procedures in place, and plus to have enough room for the women for their safety. And it also gives us, which we were lacking from our other property, accessibility, which was a real disappointing when we had to turn women away if they were in wheelchairs. So this building with some renovations will permit that as well. And the shelter right now, we are running between 10 and 11 women. It's a 10-bed shelter. That's currently our max. And for this location, it will also be our max. I guess the greatest part for us as an agency is to work with women and to see them transition and to move them forward. And the homeless shelter is that first step. And my staff work really hard to give women dignity and respect and to do that. And the property next door is much larger than our old location. It's 5 large bedrooms. It's got a double living room. It has multiple bathrooms. It also has a room that if we had to do COVID isolation, we have a separate section in order for the safety and the well-being of our clients as well as my staff. So our biggest goal is just to assist and to provide a brighter future for all the marginalized women who we serve.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary. Questions for the applicant? Councillor McKenzie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, this is an excellent location and property to transform. I'm just wondering how long you think it'll take before, you'll be able to move in there.
Well, hopefully after approval tonight and support, we have a really short closing date so that we can turn around, and then we have to get the inspectors in to do the final for the renovations in order to operate as a homeless shelter, which is all the typical for the safety, the fire rated doors and the fire alarms and stuff that a residence doesn't normally have. Our biggest challenge is going to be having an outdoor exit, a separate outdoor exit from upstairs, because all the bedrooms are upstairs. So we have a couple months of down the road of getting renovations to get prepared before we can move in.
Right. So you're looking at the summer probably.
Well, I'm really hoping, I'm being positive and hoping we can get in by April 1st. But of course, weather permitting, that's our one biggest challenge is the outdoors, for the outdoor exit to make sure it's, yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look at that, more money being spent in Waterloo Village. Tremendous. Thanks very much to Mary and your team for all your hard work. But I just wanted to mention quickly, I talk quite a bit about, in the demographics of Ward 3 and the demographic realities of Ward 3 as well. We have a poverty rate hovering around 30% in the ward, a child poverty rate of 50% in the ward. I was at my house on Waterloo today, or on Sunday yesterday, doing a few of the renovations, and walked outside, and there's a park set up in my unoccupied backyard, and there's a gentleman standing there, and I got talking to him, and this is where he was living, was underneath this tarp in January, in the back parking lot of on Waterloo Street. I had a conversation with him, and just obvious heart-wrenching challenges. And I just want to thank Mary and your team for, you guys are on the front lines of this, and you're working every day to make sure that you're making a difference in our community. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And thank you for your passion. It's really nice to see the investment in Waterloo Village as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, just a couple of comments. No question. Thanks to you, Mary, Tamara, and the board. It's the social champions in our community that just do incredible work. So on top of that, you've got to go figure out, find a building, go through zoning and rezoning and all that stuff. So I'm glad to hear you say Mr. Reed and others helped you navigate through this. Let's get on with it. Hopefully here in a few minutes, so that you can get back to focusing on what you do best, and making a difference in the community. And for this council and for the future councils, it's making sure we move this community ahead for everyone, so that everyone gets to thrive. The terminology I've been using since COVID hit us, economically, socially, and culturally. And we know that that's not necessarily the case today. And we thank you for all the tremendous work that you do as champions of the people, because the stories better than any of us could know them. So thanks for that. Okay, do we have mover, Councillor Hickey, move first reading? Thank you. Councillor Reardon seconded that. Okay, I'll call that question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone. Common Clerk?
Your worship,
no.
just to clarify, this
No,
is a
yeah,
section 59.
I apologize. I misquoted. So Councillor Hickey moved the section 59 amendments. Councillor Reardon seconded those, and everyone on council's fine that that's what we voted on. Okay, thank you. And okay, so that motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much, Mary, Tamara, everyone. Thanks very much on these items.
Thank you.
See you later.
Appreciate the support. Take
Okay.
care. Stay
See you.
safe.
Cheers. Thank you. Okay, where are we? We got through a lot. Next item, Common Clerk.
Yes, Your Worship, we had previously skipped over the presentation. So on your agenda, you have item 8.1, and this was a pre-approved request to present by the St. John Cycling Club. And tonight we have Dean Price in attendance, virtually, of course, to present this PowerPoint presentation.
Excellent, thank you.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me and see me?
We can see you. You look fantastic.
Okay, thanks. All right. So thank you very much for letting us present. I'm going to share my screen, and please, because I have the PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to give that a shot here, and let's see if that's going to work. Can you see my PowerPoint screen?
Yeah, yes, we can, sir.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. So the reason I wanted to present tonight was there's 4 reasons. So we want to give you an update on the Enduro project. The second reason is we wanted to explain the reasons for doing the Enduro project. Third reason was we wanted to, ask for your cooperation and understanding and just give you some information so that you're supportive of it if you hear other people from ACOA or somebody talking about it. And the fourth reason is, well, the St. John Cycling Club, we just want to toot our horn just because we've done a lot of good things and a lot of people just don't know about it. So we wanted to just let people know what we're doing. So I'll jump right in, and I will try to keep this to 15 minutes or less. That is my goal. I'm not going to go through the agenda, but we'll just jump right in. So the cycling club, we've been doing a lot of work in Rockwood Park for the last 10 years, and we've built up a relationship with the staff there, and we've done a lot of different things. We've got, obviously we fix trails and build trails. We've, every year we keep track of how many hours, and some years it's been a couple hundred, some years it's 2,000. Last year we did 1,850 hours of work in the park, and if you paid $20 an hour for that, that's worth $37,000. I know in years past we had done a big check presentation. We can't do that this year, but the other thing we did this year, we did Adopt a Trail program, which is really good for COVID because so a small group of people, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 people, could go out and work on a trail that they wanted to take care of and make it better. The little shelter here in Rockwood, this is something that was built by the cycling group. Not only do we just fix trails, but we know how to do it right because a large number of the crew has taken actual courses that are recognized throughout North America. So that's important. Here's some of the folks back a couple of years ago, finishing up some trail work. One of the things that we spend a lot of time is fixing bridges and rebuilding them, and I think we're getting better lately of knowing how to build good quality bridges that will last a long time. So let's talk about, that was kind of the background of some of the things that the cycling club has done in Rockwood Park over the years. Now, so the Enduro Park project, what do we want to do? We want to build 6 really good quality mountain bike trails in and around the old ski hill that used to be in Rockwood Park. You know, we want these trails to be built by professional trail builders. We want to create a destination. And yes, mountain bikers have money and they will travel, and it creates economic activity. You know, and we want to do more than just build a trail. We want to have some trailside amenities, and we want to have places where we can host events. That's important. And then the bottom here, the 3 bullet points to remember. Here's the 3 reasons we want to do the project. We want to do it just for pure recreation, just for fun. We also want to do it for tourism, and we want to do it for mental health, and we'll talk about that a little bit further down. So let's talk about money from last year. So we had an amazing fundraising campaign through the year of the COVID. We got the $50,000 from the LPP Trust Fund, which kick-started everything. And then we went out and raised over $67,000 in private funding. And then we got another $67,000 from the province. So that $50,000 we got from the LPP Trust Fund kick-started and got us $185,000. And that's just for phase 1. And we're going to keep fundraising this year. So here's some of the sponsors from 2020. And of course, we'll add to that this year. We're going to have another big bunch of sponsors for this year to continue phase 2 of the project. So what did we get done last year? So trail number 1, which is a big trail, starts up at the water tower, goes all the way down to the pipeline. That is almost done. I would say 95%. There's a big bridge that's basically done. We started working on a foundation for the shelter. So, and then trail number 2 has been started. That'll get done in the spring when the contractor comes back. So trail number 1, here's just a few pictures during construction. One of the things we need to do in the next couple of weeks is start naming the trail so that we can start with signage. So this is the bridge partway through, the screw pile foundation for the shelter. So for this year, what is the plan for this year? So we got to work on signage. We got to work on the shelter, trail 3 and trail 4, which are going to be a lot of fun. Those are going to be great. And again, we're working on not just the trail, but all these little trailside amenities to create a really good place for hosting events and attracting people. So funding, so government funding is always interesting and fun. So we were successful with the LPP Trust Fund again for 2021. We got a little bit more money, which is great. We're going to apply to the province again for the Trail Infrastructure Fund. We got lots of money from them last year. Now, and also this year, we're going to be applying to ACOA. Greg Bosense, who's the president of the club, he is working on the ACOA funding application. And so we hope to kind of put that together. And they're really interested in seeing a facility where you can host big events. So, and of course, every time you're trying to raise a lot of money, different government agencies matching funding, and then trying to get all the work done in the same year is a challenge. It was challenging last year. I'm sure won't be quite as bad this year because we got our LPP money a little earlier. So, okay. So the plan for 2020 is going to be to build the trail number 5 and number 6. Obviously, we got to, whenever you're doing a project like this, there's lots of signage that's necessary. We also want to create some artwork in the project. We want to have some metal sculptures and get some real artists to build some interesting, cool stuff. And of course, other amenities that you like to have for events is maybe having some seating or tables or areas that you can have for that. So we want to try to create neat little spaces that work really well. This is just a really rough map. It's not very exact, but it kind of gives you an idea where a lot of the trails will start up around the water tower and they'll go down through the old ski hill, and some of them will go to the old ski hill parking lot. Some will go down to the pipeline, and of course, you can see on the map there, Peacock's Lane, which is now the Joshua Group, is down there. So getting back to what we mentioned before, tourism, like we really, some of the folks in our club that are really in tune and work in the mountain bike industry and understand the economic activity that can generate. So, there's a lot of places that attract a lot of mountain bikers, kind of like skiers. They'll travel to good mountains. And $168 a day is the current average of what people will spend. And tied in with the potential for ACOA money, they want us to create places that we can host national events. Obviously, mountain biking is all about recreation. The other thing I want to mention too about mental health and PTSD is we've been talking to some of the groups that help first responders and military veterans deal with PTSD. And one of the things they really like to do is to get people out cycling, whether it's road cycling or mountain biking. And just one point I want to make about Rockwood Park, obviously it's a regional asset that people from all over use. It has, and also it has a lot of potential to help with the whole COVID recovery when it comes to both, recreation and economic recovery. People spending money at the bike shops and the pubs and things like that. And this picture of people cycling in the winter, ironically enough, it's not even from Rockwood Park, but that's okay. The other thing I just wanted to mention too, the club is also doing some winter grooming so people can cycle, and the conditions for winter cycling in Rockwood Park have been excellent over the last week or so since we've had our snowfall. And I think that's it I have for questions. Let me see here. I'm going to try to unshare my.
Yeah, if you could unshare, then Dean, we could maybe ask a few questions if we have them. Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Dean, for the presentation. Comments, questions, council? Councillor Hickey, go ahead, kick us off, and then I see you, Councillor Reardon. Councillor Hickey.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Thanks for the presentation, Dean. Certainly, I'm a big supporter of cycling any chance I get. I've been on the hunt for a fat bike lately and have come up relatively dry. Yeah, and my God, our bike shops are sold out like crazy. No, but thanks for all the investments that you guys have made, and certainly it makes a huge difference. I know Rockwood Park is renowned not regionally and further, I'm sure, for its quality cycling and in the winter as well. Just a quick question from me, probably a bit of a softball, but what more can we do to support you? Is there anything that this council can do to continue our allyship with you?
Well, I guess we are going to be, obviously this year is what we're calling phase 2, and then next year will be phase 3. But as we kind of move forward, like anytime you're talking to folks who do tourism or wellness, or if you're talking to the folks who work at ACOA, I want to kind of give you guys some information so you're familiar with the project, so you can hopefully be supportive of what we're trying to build in there. We're trying to do something that we think is good for the community, and so hopefully you guys can support us. Obviously we'll be asking for a little bit more LPP money for next year, so think of us when that time rolls around as well.
Great, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Worship. Dean, I just wanted to say thanks for coming in. I think it's great from all perspectives. It's great for cyclists, but it's also great for us to get more and more people into the park. I think that's a good thing for the park. I'm a huge supporter of trail riding, etc. I don't do it, but I'm nervous as I get older about doing anything too dangerous. But I am a big supporter of that. I think you're right. I think it's great for mental health. It's great for physical activity. It's great for fun. It's great for all kinds of things. So I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see the development. I'm happy to see the investment you've garnered from what what started out with council. So it's all good. It's a snowball. I hope it just keeps rolling and getting bigger and bigger.
Yep, and even the trail runners are having a great time. There's a lot more people trail running and cycling because of COVID now. And the trail runners are even running on the snowpack trails right now because they're in great shape.
Yeah, great to hear. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reardon and Councillor McKenzie, and I see you, Councillor Norton. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Dean, I just want to congratulate you and your group. I mean, what a marvelous project you've taken on here. And I mean, the fundraising alone must be exhausting, let alone the physical labor. But I'm wondering how many people, in your group do you have? I mean, obviously 10 people aren't doing this kind of, you must have hundreds of people that are involved in this.
Well, like the trail building, for this particular Enduro project, we have a professional company doing the building of the trails, but there's still lots of other work to get the project up and going. Now, like all the other trails throughout the park that the volunteers are working on, yeah, there's probably 30 or 40 people who volunteer throughout the year to do labor in the park to fix up the trails and that type of thing. And this year we have 250 members in the club, which is the most we've ever had. And of course we have probably 12 or 1300 people on social media that follow the club.
Right.
And of course, yeah, there's a lot more people this year than last year that are involved in cycling and getting out into the parks.
Yeah, well, there you go. A lot of people say, well, how many people actually cycle? Hundreds of people actually cycle.
There's a lot of people. If a small city like St. John can support 4 bike shops, there's cyclists.
Yeah, exactly. Well, congratulations. You got my support.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Norton.
Yeah.
Your Worship, Dean, probably just echoing a lot of what's already been said. Thanks. I don't know how you find the time with all your responsibilities with St. John Water and also what you do in the cycling community, but we're certainly privileged to not only have you on staff, but what you're doing to promote recreation in the community. And it's just not about cycling. It's about expanding our bandwidth of recreational amenities in the city to make it a premier place to come and live and play and have fun and those sorts of things. And we can't do it without the backbreaking work that you and the rest of the team have done. So thank you very much, and hats off, and supportively yours, as they would say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I missed. Oh, thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a little proof to support the tourism factor, I guess. My brother, who certainly grew up in St. John and would have skied at Rockwood Park when it was a ski hill, is now an avid cyclist in Nova Scotia and involved in building trails down there. And there isn't a moment when he comes up to visit that he and his wife don't pack their bikes up and hit the trails at Rockwood Park. They're already there. I can't wait to tell him about the development at the ski hill. Certainly, we've had the debate in the past about development in Rockwood Park. This is perfect development in Rockwood Park. That isn't just kind of a nice thing. This is a moneymaker for the city of St. John. It's one more great reason to live, work, and play here. But I can see, as this project at the ski hill develops and rolls out, it's going to be a tourist destination, and just people are going to be coming to play hockey and soccer in the winter, and they will be coming to play soccer and mountain bike and sail and everything else in the summer. It's just Councillor Norton talked about one more asset for recreation, but for anybody else who's out there and got a recreation hat on, there's lots of space in Rockwood Park. There's a whole zoo space that needs to be redeveloped, and it's thinking like what the St. John Cycling Club has done with the old ski hill. That's continued to help us prosper. So thanks very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I don't think I missed anyone else. Just have a couple of comments myself. Okay, thanks. So Dean, a couple of comments. Just in terms of the site itself, how, I mean, obviously you're working with terrain. I mean, it's not a massive mountain, but I mean, you're working with some pretty good, how good could this site be, Dean? Like, is it, I mean, you're in this cycling community. Is it, you know, is it that good? Does it have the potential to be something folks do travel from all over the Maritimes to come to?
Yeah, I believe so. Like, you know, one of the models that we're kind of trying to copy is Keppoch Mountain down in Nova Scotia. Keppoch used to be a small ski hill in Nova Scotia. Now it's been redeveloped as a mountain biking destination. You know, they do mountain biking, they do cross country skiing and things like that. And you know, Shoreline Dirtworks, the professional company who's building the trails for us, they've built some of the best trails in Nova Scotia, and they're very excited about it. You know, and you know, we have a lot of members who have traveled and seen all the different trails around Atlantic Canada, and they're very excited about it because they know, yeah, it can be a very good place. The terrain is good. It's just a matter of building quality trails, and people will come. You know, you don't need to have a massive mountain like Mount St. Anne to have great mountain bike trails.
Okay,
so
perfect. Is there a water fountain there, Dean?
There is no water fountain, but there's a big water tank.
There we go. Surely we tap in and get a fountain, a water feature or something. Mr.
Yeah.
McGovern, maybe you can help us. So,
That's
okay.
right.
And then Dean, I guess, you know, I guess two last comments. Thank you very much for your presentation. To me, you know, council, this is part of we've, I think, really been pushing ourselves over the last, our term, certainly Council prior was doing the same. This is really an interesting conversation about cycling quality of life, that how do we bring to life in our strategic plan? This is, you know, part of an overall strategy in my mind for population growth, quality of life. And I think in a post-COVID world, folks, we have a tremendous opportunity to grow. You know, I spent the weekend, as I think I mentioned earlier, speaking with someone from California, you know, messaging back and forth, you know, talking about coming here. They work in the IT sector. They want out of America. They want to come to a place that they can have a quality of life. They can't believe that there's oceans and rivers, and add to that mountain biking and you know, all the other, you know, the other aspects. So we've got potential. We've got $158 million budget. If, you know, you get what you invest in. So, you know, we need to continue, I think, to, you know, to push and challenge ourselves to free up cash from areas that don't help us grow and put it in areas that do help us grow. And to me, this is one of those areas. And then lastly, I guess this is more, you know, a thank you to you, you know, Dean, because again, we know you with your day hat, and we know how passionate you are with all of these other areas. And I just have the word jamboree, and maybe it's a comment through to you, city manager. I have in my head jamboree, you know, it's some kind of volunteer back when we get to a new normal, and we could have some kind of event. Maybe it's at the mountain biking park, and it's a great big thank you and barbecue, you know, and just music, and for all of the amazing volunteers in this city. And you know, I think I know we do thank our volunteers, but boy, I think a small investment, you know, bringing people together, you know, once a year for a volunteer jamboree to say thanks to everybody, build pride, celebrate, you know, all of the great work that we do in a city, share ideas, innovate. So I just, I'll leave that one for another day. Okay, Dean, thank you very much for your presentation. I'll just ask for a receive and file, please. Councillor Sullivan, the deputy, thank you, seconded. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anybody contrary minded? Perfect, thank you. All right, thanks very much, Dean. Have a great night. Okay, Common Clerk, next item.
Your Worship, item 12.1 on the agenda is a verbal update from the city manager.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, city manager.
Members of council, good evening. This evening, I'm going to provide you with a rather lengthy update, and the first part of that will be on our ongoing restoration efforts post cyber attack. To ensure that I cover everything that is necessary this evening, I will be speaking from a prepared script, but I will be pleased to take questions there afterwards. By way of background, you will recall that on Friday the 13th of November 2020, hostile actors, criminals, executed a ransomware attack on the city's IT systems. Upon discovery, we immediately severed our IT links to the outside world in order to ensure that we, the city, did not cause the virus to spread. I'm happy to report that we have no indications whatsoever that there was any spread of the ransomware from any city-owned assets or systems to others. Since the beginning of this incident, we have kept the public informed on what they need to know as we know it. Today, we continue that approach with this briefing. Although we are fully committed to keeping the public informed and providing what everyone needs to know, we are equally committed to protecting the interests of the city. We have been consistent in our information passage. We do not divulge information that could be useful to those who attacked us. This includes giving them nothing on what systems they successfully compromised, how we contained the virus, or how we are mitigating against potential future attacks. It also includes not discussing specific ransom demands in public or our decision criteria for such demands. In short, we do not want to give to these criminals any information that could help refine their tactics and techniques, nor do we wish to provide such information to copycats or future wannabe hackers. Moreover, there is an active police investigation on this attack, which provides further reason to not divulge certain information. That said, we have and will continue to keep the public informed if there is any compromise of personal information and on any impact to our service to our delivery of services. We will also, in due course, outline what this incident has cost the city financially. Looking first at the question of possible compromise of personal identifying information, often referred to as PII, and includes such things as credit card numbers, bank account details, and social insurance numbers. We did hire early on after the attack a third-party expert company to conduct a forensic analysis to attempt to determine if any such information has been compromised. Although we have yet to receive the final report, indications so far are that no PII has been leaked or stolen. We do not expect this to change in the final parts of the forensic analysis, but even if it did, I would point out that the city retains very little personal information on residents or businesses, since most of our needs are satisfied through cloud-based applications. Therefore, we do not store this information within our networks. Our employees are at a slightly higher risk since we do retain some of their information, but again, I stress that our forensic analysis has not identified any compromised PII at this time. For everyone, we should all not only be concerned about the cyber attack on the city, but also on the many attacks that occur literally on a daily basis. It is therefore always good practice to regularly check bank accounts and other financial statements for discrepancies or suspicious activity, and report anything unusual to your financial institutions as applicable. After we successfully severed our system's ties to the outside world on the 14th of November, we turned our attention to eradicating the virus and restoring some form of interim capability. The interim capability was necessary since we disconnected and shut down our normal systems out of an abundance of caution. I am pleased to confirm that we relatively quickly reestablished a temporary website to provide information to our community. We recreated email and phone accounts in order to communicate, and developed workarounds for other critical IT functions that we had shut down. As one example of this, we developed alternative IT processes to ensure all employees continued to be paid. We did the same for most customer services, and I will speak more about that in a few moments. We continue to improve the services on our interim network as we work towards full restoration. Our analysis has confirmed that the degree of penetration of the virus was indeed extensive. We have concluded that for this and several other reasons, repair of our existing system is not the best choice. Instead of repair, we have decided to build an entirely new network. Not only will this afford us the opportunity to take advantage of all the latest innovations in cybersecurity and in network design, it will also remove the risk of any virus remnants that could occur if we took the approach of a repaired system. To build a new network will take time. Our work plan sees incremental restoration, with the bulk of the project being completed in the April to May timeframe. And that is if everything goes well. We will take our time to get this right. We must not rush. But I must tell you that to rebuild everything over a 4 to 6 month period is still very ambitious. Until various functions of our new system come online, we will continue to rely on and improve our interim capabilities. Our temporary website continues to add additional important data, and within a few weeks, our new permanent website will be launched. We have developed processes whereby all public meetings can now continue, such as the PAC we held last week, and we restored a few days ago the ability to take credit card and debit payments for bills that were owed. Generally speaking, and perhaps this is the most important point, almost all municipal services continued despite the cyber attack. This includes, but is not limited to, all emergency response, police, fire, paramedic, and EMO, garbage removal, provision of water, treatment of sewage, road repair, sidewalk repair, winter storm management, public transit, council meetings, maintenance activities, the customer service help desk, and general public works. The credit for this rests with the entire team that worked tirelessly to make this so. Where there have been temporary suspensions, in most cases, alternative approaches are now in place, and most disruptions were very short in duration, such as the few days where building permits were delayed. There are still a few services yet to be restored. For example, although safe, clean drinking water was never at risk, there have been no metered water bills issued since the middle of November. But we now have found a temporary solution, and water bills should be issued this week. We only have a limited ability to issue parking tickets, but this too will soon improve. We have had challenges providing support for land transactions, but we expect to have this issue resolved shortly as well. In short, there have been only minor disruptions to customer services, and we remain optimistic that this will remain so as we build out our new network. The most significant impact, actually, of this attack has actually been on the staff and the employees, since our internal processes, those not seen by the public, have been changed, and we will continue to face challenges until our new network is built and fully functioning in 4 to 6 months' time. Turning to costs, I am pleased to inform Council that we have a comprehensive cyber insurance policy in place. There are, of course, deductible amounts, but these are manageable. We are in close coordination with our insurance company to ensure that their requirements are satisfied as we move through the restoration process, and are confident that the majority of our response efforts will fit within the policy terms. Generally speaking, our insurance will only cover the return of our previous capabilities. Since we are building new and adding additional enhancements, the cost of the improvements will be borne by the city. This too is manageable since we have a sizable IT reserve fund, and we were planning to adopt these enhancements in the coming few years in any event. I must emphasize that this incident, much like COVID-19, has shown us again the value of having reserve funds. We will not need to adjust any yearly budget or alter our service delivery to our community because of this IT attack. We can use reserve funding to cover the expenses instead of cutting costs through the elimination of services. Exactly what reserves are designed to do. Although we can approximate some of the public costs, we are not yet ready to describe the entire costs in detail since we are still working through the restoration plan and working with our insurance provider. We will return to council with the exact cost to the public once they are confirmed. I also wanted to address this evening a rumor on social media that the city has paid a ransom. We have not. Any decision to pay a ransom would be a council decision and would therefore be made public. As I have previously mentioned, there are many criteria to consider when determining whether ransom should be paid. I will not say any more at this time, since we must not give any valuable information to those who have attacked us. Finally, I would like to address the questions of whether this attack could have been avoided and what we will do to improve in the future. I have already mentioned that we are building a new network with all the latest cyber defense enhancements. But the reality is that cyber attackers are incredibly sophisticated, and most major corporations, including financial institutions, have been successfully breached. Just in the last month alone, we are aware of many departments in the United States, including the Departments of Defense and the Treasury, that have been successfully attacked. A major US cyber defense company, also announced that it had been breached. Furthermore, it's important to remember that many corporations who are successfully attacked never disclose it. In summary, it's not a question of if a corporation will be attacked, but rather just a question of when. As an interesting side note, in the past 3 weeks, even with our limited interim network, our IT security systems have identified 13,000 malicious or highly suspicious emails in that 3-week period that were addressed to users of our network. 13,000. I would suggest to you that most organizations would have comparable numbers. That is why we have already shared our lessons learned with many private and public sector organizations, and we will continue to do so. We have also shared the details of this incident with both provincial and federal stakeholders. We are developing a robust lessons learned package that we will share with others so that they can prepare themselves for what undoubtedly lies ahead. And it is worth repeating that there is no doubt that institutions with which anyone interacts will be breached, and sometimes you will not even know about it. Therefore, we continue to recommend that everyone pay close attention to their financials. And if anything appears suspicious, please contact your applicable financial institution. In closing, on this particular item, I would like to thank the entire team that has been working on this incident. Tremendous credit goes to those restoring our networks, but equal credit goes to all employees who continue to work through our diminished IT capacity to deliver the services that our community needs. With that, Your Worship, before I go on to the remainder of the update, I suggest we take any questions on the cyber attack.
Okay, thank you very much, City Manager, for your comments tonight. I think that's an excellent update to the community. Council, questions, comments on this piece? Okay, not seeing any. We'll have you continue, please, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next area where I wish to provide a quick update is on COVID-19 and specifically the financial implications to the operating budgets for 2021. You will recall that this council gave provisional approval to the 2021 operating budget back in August. This was the earliest we have ever generated our operating budget for a follow-on year. This was intentional in order to lay out our new sustainable budget that had addressed our anticipated budgetary shortfall of $10 million. The budget was the result of over a year-long effort to explore all options for budget realignment as one part of the city's overall sustainability plan. The budget itself received its final approval in November once the tax roll was released by the province. Although the tax roll did result in less revenue than anticipated, the budget itself had sufficient flexibility to deal with the lower numbers. The budget was developed before and during COVID, but was formally approved prior to St. John entering the orange phase for the first time before Christmas. We are now, of course, in our second orange phase with no certainty as to how the future may unfold until the vaccine is fully deployed. Our budget relies in large part on property tax revenue and the unconditional grant, but there is also approximately $10 to $15 million in revenue annually that is generated from provision of services. This includes things like building permits, parking, and fees for use of sports and recreational facilities. In a COVID-19 environment, that revenue is clearly at risk. During our budget deliberations, we intentionally adjusted to incorporate COVID-19 risk. But of course, the question is, did we adjust enough? That cannot be answered at this time, so the budget will be closely monitored and proactively dealt with based on how the pandemic and its effects unfold in the coming months. Common Council has approved a long-term financial plan with financial principles of sustainability, flexibility, reduced vulnerability, and accountability. The plan also included a number of best practice financial policies, one being the reserve policy, where the city saves its money for a rainy day, where the city sets money aside into reserves for a number of reasons, including major unanticipated events. The good news, if there is any good news to be had in the COVID-19 financial considerations, is that we now have those reserves. I would draw your attention to a letter in your council pack tonight that you have already reviewed from the Premier. The letter is significant for two reasons. First, it does confirm that the $3.3 million that we have received for COVID relief funding is to be kept completely separate from the interim government funding we received in 2018, 2019, and 2020 to address the sustainability gap for those years. This is critically important since the funds are intended for completely different purposes. The second key point from the letter, and please forgive me if I take a bow on behalf of council and the staff, but the Premier clearly recognizes in the letter the excellent financial stewardship exercised by the city in this past year and for its plans moving forward. Congratulations to both the Finance Committee and Common Council. With the COVID Safe Restart funding and our previously internally created reserves, we are likely to have sufficient funds to offset the risk of future unanticipated financial revenue losses we might experience in 2021 because of COVID-19. These are the ones that are over and above those we have already factored into the budget. Therefore, I am happy to report this evening that our operating budget and its associated expenses for this coming year remains valid. In 2021, we will repair our roads and sidewalks, we will maintain our sports fields and buildings, we will provide our community and heritage grants, deliver on our programming, plant our flowers, cut our grass, etc., etc. In short, we should be able to deliver as normal a year as possible in terms of customer services despite COVID-19. This outcome is because we factored COVID into our budget and we have reserves if we get it wrong. We will closely monitor the budget during the year and provide quarterly updates to the Finance Committee and to Council. We believe that we will be able to stay on track, but if our revenues dip significantly, more than already planned, we may need to seek the approval of Council to tap into some of the reserves. If there was ever a year to do so, this is it. And we do have specific reserves designed for potential mitigation of COVID effects. Therefore, and this is the bottom line, unlike 2020, where we had no choice but to cut services to make ends meet, this year we hope to deliver all services expected within the already approved budget despite COVID-19. As a caveat, this does not mean at all that it is open season on spending. Far from it. We have a budget and we will live within it. But, and this is the big but, we should not have to reduce the budget either because we have the option of considering reserves or because it has already been planned for. This concludes the final financial updates of COVID-19. Turning quickly to a few other points, I would wish to address the COVID-19 orange phase. As unfortunate as it is to return into the orange phase, the impact on city delivered services is relatively minor. We have issued a media release on this, but in the orange level, all of our public meetings, including Common Council, are held virtually. Council meetings are recorded and then shared on stjohns.ca. Recreational facilities are operating under orange level operational plans, and this includes restrictions on the use of dressing rooms, and no games are played in any of our facilities. Sporting activities are limited to drills and practices only. St. John transit buses are also required in the orange level to operate at a 50% seating capacity, and masks must of course continue to be worn. You may also witness some enhanced monitoring of all COVID protocols, including the possible presence of provincial enforcement officers within the city. Updates will continue to be provided as required during this phase and for the remainder of the COVID pandemic. Questions about the provincial mandatory order and the recovery plan are best addressed to the province, either through their website or through their 1-800 phone number, which is 1-844-462-8387. For inquiries about municipal services, as with all things associated with those services, we encourage all residents and members of our community to contact the St. John Customer Service Center at 658-4455. Your Worship, that concludes my comments on the orange phase. I have a few more very small city manager updates, but perhaps it's another opportunity to pause to see if there are any questions or comments.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Before I go, I just want to turn it over to council. I also want to thank the Premier. This council, obviously with staff, have been disciplined, have worked hard, have put groundbreaking policies in place. And through that, the Premier and his government have been beside us, supporting us with the short-term dollars, which we knew were running out. So I do want to thank the Premier and his government as well for allowing the COVID supports to stand alone, and for recognizing, as you said, City Manager, this has not been easy to make some of these difficult decisions, but I think everyone in this council's done it with the best interest of the long-term sustainability in mind. And it is nice to receive a letter recognizing sometimes when you're in the thick of it, being recognized by the Premier for some of this discipline and hard work. And certainly from my perspective as the mayor, I don't want to see any of this be lost, in terms of our focus and discipline moving forward. So, okay, we'll move to some questions on that last update. Councillor Merrithew, I think you had your hand up, sir.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, for the update. A lot of moving parts in it. I still remain very, very cautious as far as our budgets go. Again, a lot of moving parts. Our budgets were built on growth of 2.5%, and of course, last year we saw a meager 1.7%, and we don't know what we're going to see this year going forward. We also, you mentioned, sir, there's $10 or $15 million annually of income, and we just don't know where that stands as well, whether it's ticket income or income from rinks. I understand that's offset by some relief funds from the province. Again, thank you very much to the province. And if the rinks aren't open, there's a cost savings there as well. What I'd like to say, sir, is that I think we should remain still vigilant, all right? And that there should be absolutely no things like hiring or unnecessary spending in this budget. We just, as far as I'm concerned, can't see what it will mean by the end of the year, and it's January the 11th. I think again, I'm very cautious. We've only had reserves for a very, very, very short time in this city, and I'm glad they're there. The last thing I want to do is use them. There better be a very valid reason when that comes to be. So please, with that, I want to thank staff. They've done a heck of a job so far, but I just don't believe we have enough vision with this budget on the revenue side and the cost side, okay, going forward, to be going to that 2021 budget as written some months ago. I would remain highly cautious. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll just hear from a few others, City Manager, and then perhaps you might have some wrap up. Councillor Hickey, I think you want to jump in.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Certainly thank you, City Manager, and thanks to staff for efforts on this. Obviously, I think it's a positive step. I think it shows the resolve that Council has taken in making the difficult financial decisions that we have had to make over the past few years. And I think specific to the Premier's comments, certainly appreciate it. But I hope that is matched with the action that we so desperately need in the city, whether it's in municipal reform or investment in some of our key projects that we know are going to boost that growth rate that we so desperately need. That's where that provincial support comes into play, not necessarily in letters of congratulations, but I hope that attitude is matched with action from everyone. But that's all for me, and like I said, City Manager, thanks to you and to staff as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I certainly appreciate Councillor Merithew's perspective on guarding our funds going forward, etc. Flip side of that coin is we have been working on a structural budget for so long. We've been trying to balance our budgets. It's been a long haul for us, and it's been a painful one. And so I am happy to see a little bit of that spending happening. We can say it's not normal times and that we don't really know what the future holds, and that's all true. But everybody's still paying their property taxes like it is normal times. And I guess we want to see a little bit of those amenities that we've missed so much over the last little bit. Some of the things that the City Manager mentioned. Just some of those things that just make your daily life a little bit nicer, even a few little flowers. So I am happy to see that the City manager has considered that, and that we're going to move in that direction. I'm happy, very happy with it. Appreciate the timing. I think we need it right now with the tough times. Everyone's had tough times. Personally, we've had tough times with the city, so I think it's time, if it's possible, being cautious, to go forward and offer a little bit of that to the citizens. I think it's important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sullivan. I'll come back to you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Sullivan.
Just to remind folks, both around the horseshoe and those at home, one of the exciting new policies that came through our financial plan is our budget monitoring policy. So the days are long gone of council passing a budget and then 12 months later finding out what happened to it. This budget monitoring policy is intended to keep us on track with the current budget, to make sure we're getting reports back to council, and that we identify early if things are going askew so that we can make adjustments. We've put the plan together. It's time to use those tools and work our plan. Certainly, Councillor Merithew's points are very valid. We've got to watch our money as we're spending. We got to stay on budget. But we passed the budget looking at making sure we were restoring services that we had to cut because we needed to make very fast moves because of COVID. So I'm trusting the policies that we've got. We've got to make sure that our staff follow up on them, and I have great faith in our financial staff that they will. And in 3 months' time, when we get that first report back, we'll know whether we're tracking positively or not, and make adjustments as needed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come back to Deputy Mayor, then Councillor McKenzie, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Merrithew. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I'm on the side of I want us to be very careful. I would like the idea of having a few things come back for this summer, particularly later on this year. I know people need it and they just need to be proud of their city, and we need to keep things nice and looking great. It wasn't so great this past summer. And I do want to compliment all the staff and the city manager and for everything they've done in trying to get us on the right track on budgets. I am a little fearful that, you know, we might go to the area of overspending. I don't want that to happen. I want us just to have enough staff that we need for each department, but not too many, because, you know, that's what costs us a lot, our people costs. And I mean, we appreciate all of our staff, but we've had a lot of cuts in this past year. A lot of people left the city employment early, so that would help our budget. I want that to continue because I just don't have, you know, I look at the province as a whole, you know, they're having it tough. You know, I read some of their comments, you know, I don't know, tax reform, somebody has to pay for that if that happens. And in order for us to get more money back through our taxation system, somebody else has to pay that money, and that hasn't been identified yet. So I just, city manager, just want you to keep going, working and doing what you're doing, but be very cautious of the fact that, you know, over the years to come, you know, there's no assurance that we're going to have a big pocket full of money. Right now we have, as you stated, some of the money's coming in through the federal government, but there will come a day that all of this has to be paid, and we're only part of it. So, you know, someday all this money is going to be paid up back, and after COVID and after that's over, you know, things are going to go back in place. And I just want the city not to be in the situation that we were years ago. We've worked really hard the last few years to get where we are today. So we have to really try to keep on track so that we don't get into debt again and wonder where we're going to get the money. So thank you everyone for what you do. I really appreciate it. I know the citizens do, and I know the citizens understand. You know, I talk to many, many people. They understand. They're not complaining that we had to cut back last year. You know, overall, people know our situation. They want us to have a good city and everything, but they also understand that we have to only have so many dollars to spend. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenzie?
Thank you, Worship. You know, I agree with what's been said around the table. I mean, obviously we took some hard hits in the last couple of years. We've, you know, we've cut back the way we had to. We showed fiscal restraint. And I think that as long as we follow our policies that we spend so much time and energy developing, I think that, you know, we're going to be fine going forward. I mean, communities right across the country are trying to, you know, normalize a little bit more with the help of the federal and provincial governments. And I think that St. John is in a position where we can also do that. And I think that the citizens, you know, have been very understanding and patient through this financial situation. And I think that as long as we stay within our budget and within our policies, I think that, you know, we deserve to be like any other community and try to be a little bit more normalized. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Back to any other first-time speakers? Okay, back to you, Councillor Merrithew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, I, as much as anyone else, want to see us go back to normal and plant some flowers down in King Street. But I'm telling you, a miss in revenue or expenses, like we had already, 0.17, when we were looking for 2.5, compounds, okay? But yet we can only spend a reserve once. It's too early, folks. There's too many unknowns. It's too early to drop our guard. And I just pray that we're vigilant and continue that way, and that we see a little farther down this road, 2021, before we talk about spending any reserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just a couple of comments and then we'll turn it back to you, City Manager, maybe for some closing thoughts. So I guess my first is a question, and I guess I'm going to put you, Commissioner of Finance, on the spot. And I'm just thinking about my past life where we had a budget, but we were only ever 29 days off course, because every 30 days we reviewed our budget, we reviewed our performance. Are there some solutions there, Commissioner, going through? These are a bit unprecedented times. You know, we've got a 2021 budget. We do have some reserves, which we've worked really hard. In 2016, we had none. Are there some enhanced monitoring? What can we do? I guess I'm thinking about the Finance Committee. Is there some enhanced monitoring that we can do that we would do a bit differently than other years previous? And I'll add one other comment around, you know, I was asking a New Brunswick economist today the impacts of COVID. What have been the impacts to the economy, to jobs, to unemployment? What are going to be the hangover impacts? And on that part, I don't believe any of us really know yet. We can talk about some of the current trends, but what are going to be some of those hangover impacts? So to you, Commissioner of Finance, my question is, you know, what thoughts do you have to help us monitor very closely, perhaps more frequently? What are the options that we could have in 2021 to monitor more carefully?
Through your worship, I think you've made a number of policy decisions that are actually going to help us quite a bit in 2021. First and foremost, I think Councillor Sullivan mentioned it, the budget monitoring policy. But the very fact that we're going to be monitoring our budget regularly and in a much more defined way, I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities to gain efficiencies and achieve, I guess, cost savings through that process. So that's a natural mitigation, I guess, aspect in itself, just by changing the way we conduct budgeting. Second, I think just like any other company organization, you know, the financial plan that was established there's a whole entire section about evaluating and managing financial health and monitoring financial health. And you can only do that by reviewing your actual results regularly, comparing your actual results to your plans, which we intend on doing. We also should have any high performance organization, when it comes to financial management and mitigating risk, should have key performance indicators. You'll recall that the financial plan has an entire section of key performance indicators. We will continue to monitor and track key performance indicators of the organization to ensure our financial health is intact. So I think it's really, in terms of your question, we've got more flexibility and less vulnerability than we've had in the past because we have been diligent in our financial management, but it's really understanding your results on a regular basis, and that's what we should be doing at the Finance Committee, so the committee can make good informed decisions with respect to the funding and the budget.
Okay, thank you. Certainly would be nice at a future Finance Committee, like some of that forward-looking, perhaps we can have an economist in as a guest speaker to give us that snapshot of where are we and where do they think we may go. Last comment, and then I'll turn it back to you, City Manager, is, you know, I think what we're hearing from our chair of our Finance Committee, and I would share as well, you know, I think we can't operate in a bubble is what I wrote down listening to some of these comments, and certainly not suggesting for a moment anyone here wants to operate in a bubble. Lots of external pressures, and I think we still have some expectations to manage internally, and I think everyone just wants to be strategic and smart and focused and disciplined and vibrant and growing and all of those other pieces. So thank you for the discussion. I'll turn it back to you, City Manager.
Yeah, Your Worship, if I may, just in closing, and I don't take exception with any of the points and considerations that were offered, but I guess the way I would respond is, first of all, absolutely the staff will be vigilant. I mean, I think this current staff has a good reputation of being exactly that, be it the anticipation of what back as early as 2017, 2018, what the shortfalls would be in 2020 and beyond, to the recommendation of all the financial policies to put us on the correct course, to the overall sustainability plan. But even more recently, we were very quick out of the blocks to adjust our budgets last year as soon as COVID-19 became apparent here in Canada. So yes, that mentality, that approach absolutely needs to continue, and I have every confidence that we will as a staff, including the necessary reporting back to council. I guess my point this evening was not just to be optimistic or positive in tone, but to stress that I do fundamentally believe that we're in good shape. And if we are in good shape, then we can afford ourselves the pleasure of living within the budget. There is nothing in my comments this evening that would suggest to anyone that we will not meet our budget for this year. We absolutely will. It's a requirement. And we will not spend needlessly. Even if it is possible to spend it within the budget, it still needs to be justified. So I just want to close by assuring all members of council that we will take this very seriously. We cannot predict the future. We need to monitor this very closely. But I remain very optimistic that in terms of a municipal budget, this year can be a return to a degree of normalcy that I think our community will appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think something Councillor Hickey said, I think this council has worked on our 3 pillars daily: growth, our financial management, and our provincial advocacy for reforms. But we flipped the switch from will you do it? We now have that commitment, and we heard from the Premier that 2021 is going to be about reform. So we're going to carry that baton halfway, council, and the next council will carry that baton to the finish line in hopefully the fall of 2021. We've got some real tangible, as you said, Councillor Hickey, action around the reform agenda. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Can I have a receive
Your
file?
Worship, I'm sorry, there's just 2 other very quick updates to provide this evening.
Oh, I apologize, City Manager.
The first is on the Transit Commission collective agreement. I am pleased to announce this evening on behalf of our Transit Commission that a new 3-year collective agreement has been reached between the St. John Transit Commission and the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1182. Ratification by the union took place yesterday, the 10th of January, and the Transit Commission itself ratified the deal late last week. The agreement will see all union members receive a retroactive pay increase of 1.036% for 2020. By way of reminder, their contract expired at the end of 2019. So their pay raise in 2020 is 1.036. In year 2 of the agreement, which is this year, 2021, sees a 0% pay wage increase. And in year 3, 2022, the collective agreement will follow the City of St. John wage escalation policy as it was approved by resolution of Common Council in September of 2019. Aside from the wages, the additional language within the agreement remains consistent with previous contract. In short, the only changes are to the wage clauses. This, Your Worship and members of council, is now the second unionized work group that has agreed to accept the wage escalation policy within their collective agreement. This is a huge step, positive step forward for the city, and I'd like to recognize and thank the bargaining teams from the commission and the union for developing a financially sustainable collective agreement. And my final update for this evening is on the Regional Economic Development Agency. It successfully stood up on the 1st of January, as was planned. I would like to offer my sincere thanks. I am a member of the board, but the remainder of the board, other than the chief administrative officers from the towns and cities, is composed of volunteers. The amount of work that those volunteers on the board did through the fall and early winter months in order to achieve stand up on the 1st of January was simply incredible. They were successful. The organization is now stood up. There's still a long way to go. For example, even a new name for this agency. But we are certainly, in my opinion, on the right track and satisfying the requirements within the prospectus that was approved by this Common Council towards the end of the summer. I will also, without letting the cat out of the bag, inform you that there will be several announcements over the coming weeks and months about their projects and initiatives, and a first key announcement will be made tomorrow from the Regional Economic Development Agency. That now, Your Worship, concludes the City Manager's update for this evening. I apologize for its length, but there were many important items to discuss. Subject to any further questions, I am simply looking for a receive and file.
I'm not going to let any more questions, but I think it just speaks to the focus and the breadth of the work that we're working through. City Manager, you're leading us through, so thank you for the comprehensive and incredibly important updates tonight. And thank you to the transit, as you said, to the transit group and all parties involved. Everyone working together for sustainable, bright future is what we need. Employees, region, all of us in this together. So thank you. Receive and file, Councillor Reardon. Thank you, Deputy. Thank you. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary minded? Okay, thank you. The motion's carried. Thank you, City Manager. Common Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Your Worship, on the agenda is item 12.2, and that's for demolition of vacant, dilapidated, and dangerous building at 82 Mecklenburg Street.
Okay, Ms. Hamilton, you're going to chat with us first.
Yes, Your Worship and members of council, before you this evening are recommendations to move forward with 2 city-initiated demolitions as part of the city's vacant and dangerous buildings program. We're pleased to be continuing momentum on this important growth-focused program with 50 cases resolved in 2020 and 2/3 of these being repaired and reoccupied buildings, which is certainly an important outcome of the program. With that introduction, I will turn things over to Mr. Ben Purington, who is the manager responsible for the program, to present an overview of the recommendations for both files before you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Ben.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. So I'll provide an overview of the two dangerous and vacant building files before you, items 12.2 and 12.3 of the agenda. Beginning with item 12.2, there's one building on the premises at 82 Mecklenburg Street, a two-story, four-unit apartment building. The building has been routinely found unsecured upon inspection, with multiple break-ins at the building being reported to city staff. Evidence of drug use and other criminal activity was found in the building during internal inspection. The building has become a hazard to the safety of the public by reason of being vacant or unoccupied and by reason of dilapidation. Notice to comply was issued on the building in October 2020. The owner did not comply with the timeframe provided, and staff recommendation for the building is demolition. Staff received access to interior photos after the agenda submission deadline, and the photos being presented will differ from those provided in the agenda. However, the public agenda will be updated within the week to include the following photos. And here's some photos of the exterior of the building. And the interior.
Lord.
Thank you.
Can we just hold you there, Ben, and we'll just deal with this one and then we'll move to the next one? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, council, any questions on the file? I'll then have my statement that I need to read before we move into the file, but any questions first on the file? Councillor Reardon, you're muted, but go ahead.
I don't have any questions, Ben, but I always find these a bit of a struggle. It's hard to see our heritage buildings, what they've been let go to. But a vacant building in any neighborhood, especially one that has nefarious activity going on, and can destroy a neighborhood. So these things have to happen. So I just want to, out of the kit, I usually like to pull out that the person who owns that building is a Larry Matthew King, and that it's assessed for $143,000. So once we tear that down, there will be no very little income from property taxes on it. Even though it is a service lot, there will be no collection of services for water, etc. It has water, sewerage lines that run in front of it. It has the street, sidewalks, it has all amenities, but there'll be, so it's a difficult situation for us. But thanks for your work, Ben. Always appreciate seeing a couple of these in the kit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks again, Ben. Just a comment, I guess. With the activity we've seen, we certainly know there's demand. We certainly, again, that building certainly doesn't look salvageable to me, having spent 20 years of my life in the construction industry, and a vacant infill lot with services should present opportunity for new infill. And I had a conversation with someone today about the north end as well. I mean, just opportunity everywhere we look to get new and infill density. We've got some folks in town that have some new and big plans. So anyway, I know it is sad, Councillor Reardon, I do agree, but in any other city, an infill lot fully serviced that you can go in and rebuild on, I think this is going to be an opportunity for us moving forward. So, okay, the information which has been provided in the council kit includes the report of the building inspector stating that the building located at 82 Mecklenburg Street, PID 00006379, is a hazard to the safety of the public by virtue of its being, amongst other things, dilapidated or structurally unsound. Is there present? We know there isn't, but we're reading the statement anyway. Is there present an owner, including anyone holding any encumbrance upon this property, who wishes to present evidence to the contrary, i.e. that the building is structurally sound and not dilapidated? So we had no one registered, and we know no one's on here with us tonight, Council. Okay, ready for a mover? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Reardon, thank you. And the second? Thanks, and I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay, not hearing or seeing anyone. Thanks. Okay, next item, Common Clerk.
And Your Worship, the second demolition is 12.3 on the agenda, demolition of vacant, dilapidated, and dangerous building at 12 to 14 Cliff Street.
So we'll go back to you, Mr. Purinton. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, members of council, there's one building on the premise at 12 to 14 Cliff Street, 3-story, 4-unit apartment building. The property has been monitored by staff since 2010. However, the property rose to high priority on the list in 2018, and staff began to move forward with enforcement action. In 2018, the owner expressed intent to renovate, and a building permit was issued for renovations. However, the permit has since expired with no work completed. The building has experienced significant water infiltration, and there's a significant presence of debris that prevented access to some areas of the building. The 3-level deck at the rear of the building is missing handrails and guards on all levels. It's exposing a significant falling hazard. The stairs on the deck are in deteriorated condition with multiple holes and missing steps throughout. In the past, staff has received reports stating the kids had climbed onto the 3-level deck and used it to access the roof of the building. The building is a hazard to the safety of the public by reason of being vacant or unoccupied and by reason of dilapidation. A notice to comply was issued on the building in October 2020, and the owner did not comply with within the time frame provided, and therefore staff recommendation for the building is demolition. Again, as with Mecklenburg, staff received access to interior photos after the agenda's submission deadline. The photos being presented will differ from those provided in the agenda. However, the agenda will be updated within the week to include the following photos. And some shots of the exterior of the building. And the interior. This is the main level. And the upper levels. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Reardon, sorry, I had myself muted. Go ahead. I see you, Councillor.
Thanks again, Ben. I don't have any questions, and I'm hearing an echo there. All I wanted to say is that this place is assessed for $78,700,000, or $78,700, sorry, owned by a Peter Green, both all of St. John as well. These buildings, as you demonstrated, are a liability. You've got kids climbing on them, etc. So they are difficult for a neighborhood. And every St. Johnner pays for them to have these vacant buildings because the city is providing surveillance by police and fire. So it's costing us all money. So we don't want to see this. We don't want to see owners letting their buildings become dilapidated like this, and especially become vacant. It is another opportunity down the road, but it's something I'd love to see more tools, I guess, in our tool chest to curtail this sort of thing. Anyways, thanks again, Ben. Appreciate the work that you put into all this. The reports are always interesting, and I find they're very informative and complete. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks to you, Ben, as well, for your effort on this. Certainly echoing.
You're just a little bit low, Councillor, again. We're just having a hard time hearing you.
No, that's okay. No, just wanted to thanks very much, Ben. Certainly echoing Councillor Reardon's thoughts. Nice to see more action happening in Waterloo Village. Like, look, Waterloo Street is going to be the next your main street. I'm telling you. There's a lot of exciting development happening. And just a point personally, Ben, my brother lives right beside one of our teardowns on Exmouth Street, and said he got a visit from you and really appreciated it, and appreciated your thoroughness as well. So just goes to show the impact you're having in the neighborhood. And I know he felt quite pleased, and like there was really something happening in his neighborhood now that was being taken care of. So I'm sure it's felt with each and every one of these. So I just wanted to thank you for your thoroughness and effort on this. It continues to be a positive part of council, and truly has a big impact on our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, for me, I guess I say almost the same thing every time. Thank you for the work you're doing, Ben, to you and the team. I don't want, and city manager, I'm sure you would agree. I hope you would agree. I don't want any of our people in a building like that. I mean, what a risk to not only the public, but to, first responders and others. So, this council's brought a tremendous focus to cleaning up these buildings. It's nice to hear and know that the majority of them are being reinvested and brought back to life. Saved where it makes sense to save them. But it is also an indicator. I mean, I cannot imagine, and Ben, I'd love you to prove me wrong, that another city, town, anywhere else in New Brunswick is going through and dealing with the number of files. It just is that indicator of a broken tax system, of failed, policies like urban renewal and other policies that it's time for action. 2021 is about recognizing and bringing equality, tax reform. And, I hope, as we said earlier, these sites in the middle of our original city will be reinvested in, built back on these sites again. And that would be that's a win-win-win all around, but we need those reforms. So, okay, the information which has been provided in the council kit includes the report that the building inspector stated that the building located at 12 to 14 Cliff Street, PID 000-14324 is a hazard to the safety of the public by virtue of its being, amongst other things, dilapidated or structurally unsound. Is there present an owner, including anyone holding any encumbrance upon this property, who wishes to present evidence to the contrary, i.e. that the building is structurally sound, not dilapidated? So while not on the phone tonight, we did not hear from anybody, or on the call tonight, we did not hear from anybody on this building. Okay, ready for a motion, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hickey. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll call the question. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Okay. Thanks again, Ben, for all your hard work on these files. Okay, Common Clerk, I think, are we done?
That's the final item, Your Worship.
That is. Well, thank you very much to the public. Over 400 pages tonight in our council kit. A lot of information. All of those reports prepared by our highly dedicated staff. And thanks to all of council for working through it. And we wish you all a safe and great evening. And a motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Councillor Sullivan, and seconded by Councillor Reardon. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? Not this group. Thank you. All right. Have a great night, everyone.